Yo, what is up? What is up, Libertarian family? It is IK right here. Alright, let's get right into it. Alright, so, yeah, this is a, Libertarian metaverse, so, alright, yeah, let's talk about this shit, man. Alright, so, as far as, what I wanted to talk about, I haven't really been able to get to it, but, for this topic, I've always wanted to talk about the, violent racist history of gun control, or better known as gun confiscation, and why owning guns are very important to maintaining a free society. And the thing is that in any form of philosophical debate, you must understand the ethics and principles behind any form of argumentation. For me, at least, when it comes to anything that involves self-defense and the means of owning, responsibility for your life, you will always go to that level of saying that it is important to, stand up for the things that you must stand up for, whether that's defending your property, defending your life, and maintaining your liberties however you see fit. See, now, in the realm of owning a gun or any means of a weapon, people like to play this little weird game, especially status, to say that owning a weapon is fine, but it needs to be limited to a certain degree. And the thing is that you cannot limit the amount of weaponry you have. Humans, to a certain degree, have the ability to hurt one another, but that should not stop, a man that is willing to defend his life for the sake of being there for his family whenever they're in danger. But even in principle, it's like if you're trying to live your life and enjoy your life, and somebody's trying to threaten your life by putting a threat to your life, then that makes sense, because nobody doesn't want to deal with that, and nobody doesn't want to be in that position forever. So my whole issue is that when you have a situation where you deal with the initiation of force, that being the state, to initiate violence on individuals for the sake of bloodlust and political dominance, that is where the concept of, libertarian thinking comes on. And here's the thing, gun control or gun confiscation, however you want to define it, is literally the confiscation of one's property to own a weapon and defend yourself for the sake of defending your life and defending the people that are around you that you care about. See, now, people like to say, well, gun confiscation is justified because there are bad people in the world. Anybody in this world can be evil, and the issue is that why would you want to let the biggest evil in the world, which is government, take away something that you have no control of your life over, and you can't defend your life by the means of using weapons for the sake of your own benefit? So the history of gun control, as far as what it has been shown, has been a very, very racist history. I mean, honestly, like, I can even go. Well, I mean, as far as like the civilized, well, industrialized world, like, we'll even use like America as a great example. The very first gun laws in America were very, very racist, as they were primarily directed against Afro descent Americans at the time, or just Black Americans. Um, the thing is that Black Americans at this time frame, if I'm not mistaken, especially during the early slave revolt riots, predating to, I want to say, the late 1600s and most likely 17 and 1800s. These gun control laws were backed by left wing KKK members, I believe back in the early 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. But this was like all racist for the sake of promoting, pure centralization to collectivize gun ownership to make it harder to own a gun, and therefore you can't own one because it's like, if you're a slave, and slaves, had the ability to form their own military style, militias, to have their, resistance squadrons, then that would make anybody come out of their way to say, well, of course, for us being racist, we don't want these people to own guns, so what better way than to go to the state and ask people in power to enforce these laws for us. So, I mean, the thing was is that everything that you've seen with the history of gun control, a lot of government schools have been hiding the racist counterpart behind it, and therefore a lot of people have been trying to normalize that behavior. No country has ever been successful in making a peaceful society without guns. And I could dab into like a little bit with like what other countries are quote unquote doing to say that, hey, look, we're doing better than the United States because we have no guns and our crime rates are lower, which I'll get to that in a minute. But the root of gun control is a very racist policy, and whatever people try to say that it's not racist, just look at what America has done and then come back to me, because this country is still spilling blood for the sake of what the government is doing. And no matter how many laws that are being passed, these laws are designed to discriminate the poor, and therefore gun control alone creates more violence. So the issue, however, is that gun laws do not make any sense, because if you are trying to defend your community, you do not have government come in and tell you what you can or cannot do in your community. Because let's just say, for instance, if Black America were to create a decentralized society where, let's just say, private security was offered in a black market, and black people were like, yo, we don't like fucking cops, we don't want to fuck with you, we don't want to deal with you, excuse my language, but um yeah, let's just say if that route did go the way, people could envision a world without police. I think when you look at the end principle, life would be way much better if you had a competing set of security services that were managed under a competitive free market to give people what they need, and to give people the opportunity of what they can give back to their community. And that's one thing that government hates. They don't like competition. As Ron Paul, tries to make it known to say, don't steal, government hates competition. And like, for me, I don't like Ron Paul. I think he's a snake. I don't ever view him to be libertarian at all. And he's like any other, very very snobby, political politician. But at least what Ron Paul said in certain quotes of what he puts out, like he does make a good point. And yeah, he's definitely on that right path. But whenever libertarians do converse, like, actual libertarians that actually want, pure decentralization and, the state to be completely removed, a lot of libertarians will most likely debate on the premises of who is a champion of liberty and who focuses on true ethics and principles to be consistent in principle. Because for me at least, I'm a very purist, ethical based, libertarian. Obviously, I'm not the greatest in believing in certain things, but I do try to say that whatever you want to do in your life, you could do it. Just don't hurt other people, in the process. So, I mean, for me at least, I don't come out of my way and do anything wild. And I think it should always be, you know, um, it should always be put out for you to be successful in what you want to do based on, what drives you. Hold on, give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, pretty much. The whole thing about gun control is that it's designed in a way where you don't have your freedoms. You're not able to do whatever you want to do to defend yourselves, and therefore communities that are poor or middle class are usually the ones that get hit. Yeah, usually are the ones that get hit the worst. And honestly, what's really hypocritical is that when politicians that do advocate for gun control, these are the idiots that will have private security protecting their property. And a crazy story that I heard recently was that Barack Obama had somebody arrested on his property where, Obama, he has like 20 plus cameras, I think, all over his house in D.C. But Barack Obama, he had a potential, criminal suspect that wanted to kill him because Donald Trump leaked out Barack Obama's address, and this one person wanted to hurt him and kill him. And Barack Obama, he had, all of his, you know, government based, Secret Service agents, which I would say honestly, for most politicians, they have private security, and they basically live like a quote unquote, you know, pure libertarian, free market anarchist, if you will. Because if you think about it, like, politicians do not rely off of off of state services to be to be where they are in their position. And even if you're not in government, you're still part of what the mafia group, because you know politicians live like kings and queens out here, where they could basically do whatever the hell they want, but they're living off of your money. So I mean, in principle, if you think about what I just recently said about, if like a whole bunch of Black Americans got together to break away from the state and they were able to create their own goods and services to decentralize away from society, or from status, society, that would be massive. And I think that would be the, that would be the starting point to something bigger for what libertarian worldviews would want to see. Well, for people that actually follow libertarianism and want to see the end goal of the state being, removed, that's something that people would want. And basically, the thing is like how this relates to gun control alone is that gun control goes against the premise of you defending your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the crazy thing about it is that when you take away people's ability to defend themselves, they're not able to come together in society to actually help each other out. Government will always be the predecessor of applying violence to individuals against their will, and therefore they will be victims of possible possible civil violence, victimization processes. And what I mean by that is that the state will come out of their way to execute certain individuals that they feel like that they want to execute, and they'll get away with it because, if a disarmed society is a obedient society, for the meantime, to a state, political power. But a armed society is a decentralized society or polite society, where the state cannot, go after those said individuals that actually defend themselves, because naturalistically no government will ever be able to fend off against a population that is heavily armed, armed to the teeth. And I think if you have people that are sick and tired of the state, that want to come together in the millions to say, well, fuck the government, we are here to to break away from statism, and these are millions of people that have like their own guns and weapons, that have advanced weaponry, then the state can't do nothing because the state is completely outnumbered. The state is only successful when you have the mass majority of the population on your side supporting the state or supporting government, and therefore that's how government agencies are able to get away with, you know, disrespecting its own population and abusing and harming its own population. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that segment. Let's talk about, you know, gun control based societies versus societies that own guns, and then after that, I'll be talking about the historical atrocities of gun control being racist and evil, and then I'll end it right there. So yeah, as far as what we know with the with the evolution of gun control based societies versus societies that have guns, and the level of crime being generated. This is a very tricky subject, but it's not hard to know because just going by, quote unquote, government statistic based data, or even Pew Research data, it will show that the facts are always on the side of people that defend guns. And you know, for most research that's out there, people will like to lie to say that, oh well, gun-free societies are better societies, and societies that are filled with guns that people own them will always be crappy societies. That's always like the stupid, crazy status, left wing argument that that people like to crap on. But let's talk about the countries that people like to always bring up to say, well, look at these countries compared to America, and then compare the crime rates because numbers say so. So people will always say countries like Japan, the UK, Australia, um, I don't know, like countries like Switzerland, right? Like they'll always use those examples of those countries having less guns and less crime. And the truth is that when it comes to Japan, in particular, people will say people in Japan have more respect for each other, and therefore crime is low because of it, and that's how their society is built that way. And the stupidity behind this is that I don't know what makes people think that Japanese people live good out there, but Japan is a smaller country than the U.S. There's nothing to do in Japan that would make anybody come out of their way to do anything stupid, in a cultural sense. But I don't think that really matters. I think what enables crime out there is that what are the people being applied to against that's forcing people to come out of their way to do crime. Because I think the main root of what makes criminals criminals is that criminals are able to take advantage of something that is in their, vicinity control. And the issue is that when a criminal oh sorry. Yeah. When a criminal comes out of their way to do crime, they see the opportunity that's fit that benefits them to come out of their way to do more crime. See, now in Japan's case, Japan is heavily known for having such a great, you know, well, I wouldn't even say great at anything, but they say that Japan's crime rate is very low because, the level of respect that people have in society is good in Japan. But the thing is that that's not true. Like, there's multiple gangs out there. You have the Yakuza, you have probably a good amount of gangs that that can easily afford the capability of getting weapons and doing whatever they want to do. But it's like Japan's not, like, Japan is only doing good because in a like, in a systematic approach, they're able to maintain the culture of keeping their people isolated and not inviting, bad people to the world. In which I would probably say immigration plays a big part in crime alone. But immigrants don't really commit that much crime, on a world level basis. Hold on, give me a. All right, I'm back. So yeah, basically, when it comes to understanding the level of crime rate within a country, Japan is very interesting. As a good example, because whenever statists bring up the notion to say that Japan has less crime compared to most other advanced countries in the world, people don't realize that, for one, Japan is a very small country. Two, Japan is a very isolated culture, so people do not live as efficiently as they say that they do. And on top of that, criminals are not as probably prominent because criminals do not choose to come out of their way to do bad crime. And I do believe that Japanese people can easily suffer if if criminals wanted to come out of their way and started to enforce their own monopolistic rules to dominate certain societal functions. But yeah, the Japanese government is probably not that smart. When it comes to trying to regulate gun ownership, and I know that getting a gun is um, very difficult to get in Japan, but it's like, the thing is like, criminals can easily still get a gun, regardless of what people try to say. To say that these gun laws are over here, no, like, it doesn't matter. Like, people can get a gun anywhere in the world. It's just that black markets, you have to be connected to certain channels within a black market, and if you have the right channels to get to get a weapon, it's very simple. It's very simple to do. So, I guess as far as other countries like Australia, the UK, Switzerland, some people like to even say Norway and Denmark, and Finland and Sweden. But let me just break all this shit down, just just to like a simple T. But these countries are nowhere near the size and density of quote unquote crime in America, because America would easily destroy these countries if you brought, I probably say 15 or 20% of our bad population over to these nations, and let's see how effective gun laws would be against Americans that know how to get guns. Because people think that, you know, anybody in the world cannot figure out how to get a gun, but it's not that hard to get a gun. Like, for example, when people try to say that it's hard to get a gun in Australia, Australia has banned guns, and it's like, no, you can still get a gun. The Australian government makes it difficult to attain one, but you can still get a gun. Why and how? Black markets. What do you think? You don't think criminals are working among other criminal organizations to get guns? They're not stupid out here. I'm sure they have plenty of great connections where they could just sail guns over by way of a boat, or bringing guns over by way of anything. And the thing is that as much as people want to argue to say that, well, that's not true because take a look at other European countries that are restricting people's ability to get a gun and all this crazy nonsensical BS. It's like, if it's so true to the point where it's difficult enough for you to not, attain one, then the issue, however, is that people are not, coming together to get a gun faster. Because, I'll even use certain parts of America, but like but I want to hold that off because I wanted to compare and contrast the idiocy that people say to say that European countries and certain Asian countries are doing better than America because of reasons to say that less guns equals less crime, when it's clearly not true, because these countries' crime rates are way higher than America's crime rates. And American crime rates are not even bad because per capita, when you think about the amount of people that do die in gun owned zones versus gun free zones, these people end up doing way better than most European countries in the world that live, in America. But I'll get to that in a minute. But when you look at countries like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, I mean, again, these are smaller countries with smaller density of populations. So that means within a community, you're not expecting much in crime, yeah, crime activity. And the thing is that when you have a larger community, like I'll just say China, for example, China has a crap ton of crime, and they have all the, immense amount of gun regulation for you to not own a gun, but yet criminals still come out of their way to own a weapon, and look at how far that they've been able to be successful. So I mean, either way, it like it really doesn't matter because trying to ban a gun is just as stupid as banning alcohol, and you've seen the ramifications behind that of what happens when a country does that to restrict any item that people want to have that's in high demand and supply. And when you take that away from them, people naturally resist to go against the state to say, okay, you're not going to give us what we want, then guess what? We're going to bootleg it, and we're going to, stick together and create massive black market firms to go up against you. And then people will kill you for it because that's the natural way of coming out of your shell to say, if you're not giving me what I want and you're pointing a gun at me for it, then that's what creates criminal organizations because you're restricting people's ability to do what they want to do. So, the thing is that when it comes to anything in general about the level of what crime can be in a gun free zone compared to a gun owned zone, people always like to trade certain yeah, they like to lie with certain numbers statistics that favors their beliefs politically, and therefore that gives them falsified confidence to think that makes their argument stronger because gun owned zones equal a less free society compared to gunless yeah gun compared to gun free societies. That equals a much safer society, like when that's completely untrue. And research data has shown that people that have owned guns more in a community historically end up doing way better than people that don't own guns. But yeah, uh, yeah. Like as far as that being said, let's just talk about America real quick. The thing is that when people do bring up the argumentation of saying that America is not a country that is safe, and America has all these mass shootings, blah blah blah, all this all this political bullshit that makes no sense, by the way. People tend to forget that America is probably one of the most heavily armed nations in the world, and no government is ever going to stop the people coming together to get a gun when times are in dire need. See, now, as far as shootings go, America is still one of the rarest countries in the world to have mass shootings because the thing about a mass shooting is that mass shootings often get smudged a lot with just saying that, okay, if a person just shoots something and other people got scared in the process where nobody didn't get actually killed in the event of getting shot or getting shot at, the government will automatically label that as a mass shooting. Because if you think about it, these mass shootings that you hear, like I'll even use the most popular one. I'll use the nightclub shooting that happened in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, there was a shooting where, oh yeah, I think it happened out in California or Colorado, but there was a bar shooting that happened And what ended up happening was that in this bar shooting, there was nobody there. Nobody wasn't doing anything, and it didn't look like anybody was actually in there. But what ended up happening was that, quote unquote gunshots were being fired off at some bar. And what ended up happening was that the media sucked that up, and then they try to utilize that to lie, to say that people got killed, when clearly that's not true. They were actually lying to say that, people got shot up at some bar, and they were using that as political bait to fool the American public to say that people got killed, but there were no actual names that got killed. And actually, if anything, the names that I'm pretty sure that they used to say that people got quote unquote shot at, these were political activists that were out of their way to promote gun control in the past in certain political protests, and it wasn't even true that these people got killed. So either way, if I'm not mistaken, what ended up happening with that story, I'm pretty sure it got debunked a long time ago, and people, some people still wanted to run with it to say, oh, well, mass shootings are everywhere. Mass shootings are just everywhere in the U.S., and people are just getting shot down people are just getting constantly shot down like dogs, and it's like it's so evil and it's so disgusting. We need no more guns in this country, and it's like seriously, like you hear these narratives being pushed every single damn day, and they don't understand that the amount of crime that most advanced countries, like European countries, the Asian countries, these countries go through way more deadlier crime than anything in America that you see now. And whenever people say, oh, well, Europe doesn't have any guns, Europe's doing way better than the US, Europe is not doing better at all. Their crime rates are still off the roof. I know out in Spain, you can't own a gun, and I have like a friend that's out there, but he told me that people still come out of their way throwing Molotovs at each other, beating each other up with certain weapons, and people still get guns out there. No matter how deadly no matter how strict the gun laws are, it doesn't matter. Criminals will be criminals, and criminals will find ways to kill other people, regardless of like what the weapons being banned. But people still get the guns anyway because criminals are not that stupid. They don't like criminals don't follow the law, but they don't follow the state's precedents of them saying to them, you can't own a gun, so therefore we're gonna point guns at you if we see you with a gun. No, criminals stick together. That's what makes criminals very unique in a way, that actually come together and say, we're not gonna listen to you. We're going out of our way to go against you, and that's true. Like you see in Europe that there's plenty of gangs out there that do not care about the European law establishment, and the EU, they can't do nothing about it because it's like, all these government restrictions on gun ownership doesn't really apply all the way, and criminals find ways to get guns anyway. So, and then on top of that, when you look at like other crimes like knife crimes and stabbings and stuff like that, especially in the UK at least, they have a crap ton of more crimes and knife stabbings, and yet the UK government is trying so hard to ban knives, but guess what? You banning knives is just as stupid as banning spoons. Like you can't restrict people's ability to use everyday essentials, and it's like criminals will always find a way to still keep killing people, regardless of what you want to say is effective or not. So, furthermore, for me at least, when it comes to the level of understanding what is right and wrong, people need to know that uh, gun gun ownership comes in a certain way where you must, understand the responsibility of having a weapon, but you cannot disregard the ability of what a criminal's element can be at the time of a potential crime event. But yeah, gun free societies have shown to have a crap ton of crime, And good examples of that would be here in America or even in Canada, if you want to be honest. Crap ton of crime in Toronto, crap ton of crime in Vancouver, crap ton of crime in a lot of places. Canada is basically the worst version of New York and California combined. But yeah, in America you see that all the time in Chicago, Illinois, definitely out in Philadelphia. Like I mean, it's always going to happen, in a blue driven state where, you see areas like California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, um, definitely like all the blue states that you see where crime is just mega rampant and criminals are able to get by with what they want to do because the level the level of gun confiscation does not does not equal a safer society. And no matter what you try to say that criminals will, criminals will never obey gun laws, but they still will be apprehended. Anyway, that doesn't make any sense because the best criminals in the world will never put themselves in position to get caught by police, and whenever they flee the scene, they're able to get away, and boom, that's what makes them powerful. So, I mean, as far as of the societies that do good in a gun owned zone versus a gun free zone, you see that in many places in America, especially in states like Georgia. I'd probably say Texas, and I'd probably say Florida, and definitely Virginia. Virginia, a lot of people own a lot of guns, and I mean the stats show for itself. People do better, in a society that owns guns, and people that come together to defend their communities with guns end up scaling better than regular police. And there's been statistics that show that people that own more guns in a community end up saving less time for the police to arrive. And people that own a gun actually have a higher chance of defending and saving somebody's life a lot quicker versus a cop that will never be there on time, or they don't even show up at all. Because if you think about it, like it takes police at least up to I'd probably say at the worst probably an hour or more, but at the least it would be on a national average of 15 minutes or less. And the thing is that when people keep saying like police are so great, police are so good at what they do, let me just tell all you idiots out there, American police do not have to protect you. They are literally the main enemy of the state. And the thing is that police officers are not obligated to protect you, constitutionally speaking, because by the Constitution's precedents, it has been ruled by Supreme Court law multiple times that the police are not there to constitutionally protect you. They are there to protect the state's interests. And whatever people like to say to disagree with me, understand, if you read the Constitution and you read what Supreme Court has ruled on the Constitution, there's nothing there in the Constitution that states that a armed police, militia, if you will, because that's really what cops are. They're just an armed militia unit that listens to the state, and therefore they create havoc out of their own destruction, because that's what government needs to do with their cops. Because cops have to promote fear to society and make society think that they're nothing without them. But they do this all the time because why? They have the ability to fear a population to believe in that nonsensical, BS. So the thing is that when you look at what cops do in society, they do not do a good job with protecting communities. A lot of police officers come out of their way going after the wrong criminals, and they end up beating the crap out of innocent individuals for victimless crimes. And they don't have the courage to go after real criminals. going after criminals that actually come out of their way wanting to kill other people and wanting to be a rapist or being a child molester or whatever, but those real criminals are always being left free every single day. But cops in America will always go after the innocent individual that has not done anything wrong, not once in their life. And police officers make a killing doing that because why? Because they benefit off of the tax, benefit that gives them the ability to get more bonuses on their paychecks, and they're able to walk away free doing evil, heinous shit to, to innocent people. So, I mean, to finalize this, let's just talk about the areas in which, historical data has shown that gun control has been very evil. And I'll just get up out of here. But to summarize this real quick, plenty of historical data has shown in gun control based historical passages like the German Nazis disarming the Jews, where they ended up killing them and murdering them. You could take a look at the Holocaust or the Night of the Broken Glass, which is a Kristallnacht in Germany. The Chinese government during communist China during Mao Zedong's reign did the same thing, disarmed their population, ended up killing them. Another good example is obviously black American slaves getting disarmed by the U.S. government, and they ended up getting executed and lynched by KKK members and many other racist groups in America. Probably mostly white people, but the history shows, many American Indian tribes being disarmed, fighting back against the U.S. government. And same thing, anytime when a people is disarmed by an invading, arbitrary agency like the state, it's always a bad recipe for disaster. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say, man. I mean, the state is evil, and the state does not do, what people try to say that it's made to do. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been long, but just figured I'd say what I need to say, and I'll get up out of here. Alright, I'll see you guys. Bye. Peace, love, liberty, and happiness. See y'all. Bye.